It may be summer, but that doesn't mean people aren't putting up their new ideas for board games online. So we're here with our Kickstarter Pickstarters for June 11th, 2018. From Grail Games, we've got Boomerang. This game is a drafting game, sort of like Seven Wonders, where you're drafting cards and marking on a little map of Australia, trying to get points and pretty much visit the whole continent. It's a small game, seemed really fun, only $16 too. So it looked like a great, fun little idea of just visiting in some of the places. I mean, I don't know Australia at all, so I don't recognize it. Like, oh, so that's what that is and stuff. So also a cool little scoring drafting mechanic and really boils down what a basic needs what you'd want with drafting, so this can help you with other games such as Seven Wonders or Magic. The idea of, do I take this because it's more points for me, or do I take this knowing that you're going to want this?
Yeah, the thing that looked interesting about it was that the way that they pitched it, it sounded like was a card game meets kind of a roll and write game, because, like you said, you're actually writing stuff down.
Right.
And does it seem like that's like really a cool component of it from what you
Well, for a small miniatures game, not miniatures game, but a small like 16...
literally miniature game.
Yeah. Where drafting really is, it centers around that. And because you're writing on a board, you can sort of see how someone's like, oh, he's heavily leaning there or this. So when you do the drafting, I think it can actually be used to really helpful sort of master your drafting skills, which is what I think is really cool about it. And also, it's Australia, so that's always fun and deadly.
Yeah, throw that boomerang and then it'll come back. There's like a pun somewhere.
I don't think board games come back.
Okay. Gather, Children of the Evertree is the newest role-playing project from designer Stephen Dewey, who also did the tragic horror role-playing game 10 Candles, which we actually got to play through, and there's a video for it on our YouTube channel. So this is his newest project. It is also an RPG, also kind of a one-shot experience. You play in only one session. But this time, it actually primarily is composed of a deck of cards rather than a book. The setting is that you're all kind of the representatives of these different mystical, fantastical tribes, and once a year, or I'm not sure exactly what the time period is, you all meet at this magical Evertree to discuss the state of your realms and how everything's happening. And the way that you do that is in the form of questions. So what's going to happen is the cards are going to flip, and they're going to give you some basic information, and then there's going to be 5 or 6 questions that are the same at the start of every game. Then you're going to have a series of questions that are randomly chosen. Each card has a question on it, and you kind of are going to ask these questions to the other players. And in that way, it has like an improvisational thing to it, where you have to, your characters know everything basically about this world already, but you as a player have to decide what they know and how they know it. And you also have the ability to give people chips or tokens if you want to hear more about their answers. You want them to elaborate on something. And then at the end of the session, everyone's going to get to add their own question, and it actually comes with blank cards so that in future games, those questions may come back. So there's almost like a light legacy element to the game where, in a way, you're modifying what the future games will be like. So it sounds like a very weird improvisational role-playing storytelling game, but based on how successful I think 10 Candles was, and our playthrough was of that, I'm very interested in what he's going to do with this setting and this storyline. It also kind of reminded me of Catalyst, the other game that we played from Cherry Picked Games, which was another kind of improvisational storytelling game.
Yes, as the elf of spades, I demand that there be less taxation from the dwarves.
Yeah, there's got to be weird stuff like that.
Actually, it made me think of a different game from Cherry Games. It made me think of the other one where they're like I forget the name of it, but it's like the conspiracy.
That's what I meant. I didn't mean to say Catalyst.
I was like, okay.
Conspiracy is what I meant. Yeah. They all start with C.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I thought. Where sort of you're given a role, and your job really is really to focus on role playing, how that role would fit in this situation. I guess this one's more of a not as weird as that one, because that one you're like all of a sudden, should we make dinosaur slaves?
Not as much of a humor party game, although it could be. It's an RPG, so it could be whatever you want. Really.
So definitely a cool idea.
Yeah.
And so the deck refers to a deck of cards, or does it have its own deck with questions on it?
No, literal like tarot-sized cards, deck of cards, and each card is a question, as well as some that have like different story beats on it as well. It's $15 for you to get kind of a print and play and PDF version, $40 for an actual physical copy, of that deck of cards, along with, I presume, some rules, etc., to get you going.
Yeah, we really enjoyed the 10 candles. You can watch us and how I terribly blow out a candle like mid the beginning of a story.
It's very suspenseful.
But definitely, that was a cool idea. This is different. It's not a horror, obviously, or isn't supposed to be. But definitely another cool idea. If you're looking to solve some mysteries, then Argyx Games is there for you with their new sort of locked room game, Apocalypse Escape Box. You are sent a box from a murderer, and it's up to you to solve the puzzles within it before it's too late. It is $49, which is pretty big, but it comes with like a lot of things that they make on their own, including a box. But reason I picked this one was actually some of the other stuff that they mentioned. For example, if you backload more, they have like a mini escape room that you can get with it. They call it like Chapter 0. As well as apparently they have a subscription service where you can actually sort of subscribe and get puzzles each month, which to me was an interesting idea, especially with the locked room experience. Like, what if that had a longer thing that each month you'd get a new puzzle that maybe they were related or not? And that's what I think really made me sort of interesting and why maybe you might want to look at this if locked rooms are your thing.
Do you know, so is this one, are they actually related thematically? Like, is it every month the murderer sent to a new box?
From what I can tell, the box is a separate own thing.
Okay.
And the little puzzle, they called it, the description they made sound like it was a small thing, but they call it like Chapter 0, like a prologue. And the subscription service just sound like they just send you. But like I said, the $49 is just for the box alone. You can also get the small thing in the subscription. But it was a subscription service idea is what really made me like, huh. Because that could be a really cool, interesting thing with a locked room experience.
Yeah, well, especially one of the things we talk about a lot is how with locked rooms, escape rooms, they're usually one-time experiences. Sometimes literally because you're using components up. I
should actually mention this. They answered that on their Kickstarter is that everything that you would destroy possibly can be printed out again. So
that's always very, very nice. But that's like a cool way to do it with a subscription service because if you treat it as more of a disposable thing, it's almost like a magazine. It's like it's like getting a monthly crossword puzzle or something.
Well, not only that, if it's something like a story like this, you can make it the locker room a story, which becomes really interesting and exciting.
Cool possibilities.
Yeah,
for sure.
So that's really the big reason. I mean, check it out and see if you do like this one, you can back it. But just the idea of this sort of a different way, I think I've seen escape rooms might be a cool new thing to do with them.
Now we've got some board game accessories for you, starting with the board game book. Not to be confused with Game Book, which was also on Kickstarter that I talked about last week. This is a different book about board games. They are trying to launch a new yearly service of these books, these board game books. And the idea is that every year the book would come out and kind of have a collection of all the best games that came out from that year with information about the game, photographs, as well as more interesting things like articles, interviews with the designers, analyses of how they worked, special things like this one is planned to have introductory guide for people who are new to board games, games that they can try out, information like that, kind of in the vein of, I feel like, comic books have a similar thing where there's usually like a yearly guide of all the comics that came out. I know there are movie guides like this, something that we don't really have for board games, and they have already locked in a bunch of designers of games for interviews or to write articles for it, and it just looks like a well laid out, well-produced book that would be a great thing for, again, a coffee table or just to have on your shelf as a collection to kind of look back and have a record of these games.
Actually, yeah, the first thing that came to mind for this really isn't, like, the one you mentioned last week was coffee table. That definitely felt like, this felt more like the perfect sort of archive library almost, kind of.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to double check with that stuff. And it'd definitely be curious to see, especially because right now we're in such an age where so many board games are coming out now, to see how someone actually be like, here's everything that came out, and if they can be like, this is the American games that came out, or these are games from Germany that came out.
Yeah, and if you know, usually you are not able to buy all these games, so it's also kind of cool to be able to like look back and be like, oh, you know, I didn't get to play this one. Like maybe you're looking for ideas of a game you want to try out, or oh, remember this? Yeah, I never played that. It came out way back when, or whatever. There's some cool stuff there. So the digital version is for $19, physical for $27. Seems like a great idea. I'm hoping that it gets going and keeps going. Check out the board game book.
Have you ever looked in your closet and just said, I have nothing that says I'm a board gamer and also doesn't say I'm wearing this with sweatpants? Well, luckily, Shirts by Shorts is there for you. They have a new line of polo shirts that they're releasing with little cool logos here of like Cthulhu, dice, and other very board game heavy symbols. And you can get in a lot of different colors, so like there's like gray on red, and you can look through all the shirts. Definitely a really cool idea. They look really nice, but also, and the symbols aren't too big, so people might not notice right away that you have Cthulhu hanging out on your shirt. They go for $29, which isn't too unreasonable. What do you think? Like, would you wear a polo?
I love the idea. I don't know that I'm that much of a polo shirt guy anymore these days. Sometimes I throw one on. But yeah, it's nice to have a classy kind of shirt with a board game little thing on it.
Yeah, like I said, I love when I see Kickstarters like these that are actually not board games, but more of the accessories, especially for something to go out. Especially something like this could be like, yeah, I can show my board game like, but without just this huge T-shirt or something, or like something that screams it.
Yeah, yeah.
Subtle, but classic.
We say as two guys with vibrant shirts advertising.
I said not all the time.
Yeah, not all the time. For the gamer on the go, here's the ultimate board game backpack. Quite a claim from the company Geek On. It is a backpack designed to hold large board games in multiple quantities, whether you need to take them on the go to your friend's house for game night or on a long trip. It is quite a large backpack with storage space for several games, including, as they proudly tout, Gloomhaven, which does fit in this backpack with room to spare. But it's not just a backpack. It also comes with some cool accessories such as dice pouches. There's pockets for various other accessories you might want to include in there. You can get as add-ons elastic bands that will hold the boxes shut while they're in there so no pieces fall out. And the whole backpack itself is just in general designed to really contain these things well. It is waterproof, so you don't have to worry about rain getting onto them. It seems like a great solution, and the pictures they've shown, you know, in the video you can see, they really do fit quite a number of board games in there pretty well. And I feel like even if you aren't going to use it for board games, it just seems like a robust backpack. Like if you're going to go camping or something, you could probably fit a ton of supplies or food, whatever you want in there. But this is, we've highlighted board games carrying solutions on this show before. It seems like there's a bunch. This one did seem like one of the better ones that I've seen.
Well, here's my question.
Yeah, go
Can
ahead.
it fit my entire collection of Cthulhu Wars?
Yes, I bet it can. You think it's bigger than a Gloomhaven box?
Well, I think Gloomhaven box is bigger than the base, but with all the expansions, miniatures, and stuff, I don't know.
We'll see. And you can carry it on a plane too. They actually tested that. You can see pictures. So I don't know. Pretty cool. It is.
I gotta say, that's actually, I really do love that one, Gloomhaven, because that's actually probably a bit more of an obvious one, considering that's a game you are going to be like, if you have to always have the same group, but you don't know if you're the same place. So that's a very good test box case. And on an airplane, because, I mean, not all of us are near conventions. So flying is probably likely.
Yeah, very helpful. This will put a little bit of a dent in your pocketbook. On Kickstarter, it's $179 for the basic set without any of the extra stuff. I think the final retail price is going to be about $200. But it looks solid. It looks like it's probably worth the money if you want something like this. Those were our Kickstarter picks for the week, kind of some lighter ones and some accessories that are a little more interesting maybe for you to check out. Also, just a reminder, we are currently running a contest for you to win a copy of The Ricks Must Be Crazy from Cryptozoic. So definitely check out the description for a link to our site, rollforcrit.com, where you can find the contest and enter, etc. It'll be good for you. You won't have to pay money like you will for all these other Kickstarter games.
Yes, but until then, I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes.
And this has been Kickstarter Pickstarter.
Hey, if you liked this video, then like this video and subscribe to our channel for more board game content.
Would you kindly do it now?